We have file item 6, Assembly Member Gonzalez, AB 349. File item 6. Good afternoon.
I feel like I just saw you.
I think you did.
It's one of those days. Good afternoon, Senator and member. First, I'd like to accept the amendments in the analysis. AB 349 is a common sense bill. As we all know, we're in the 4th year of a drought with no end in sight. According to UC Davis, the 4-year drought has cost California's farm industry $1.5 billion in direct losses. In April, Governor Brown ordered 25% statewide reduction in urban water consumption. In addition, he ordered the California to take out 50 million square feet of lawns to conserve water. Yet homeowners associations are still forcing their homeowners to maintain grass lawns and fining them if they are out of HOA compliance, and still penalizing homeowners who replace their lush, water-intensive lawns with attractive, well-designed landscaping centered around artificial grass. AB 349 ensures that homeowners will have the right to alter the landscaping on the residential property to better conserve water by replacing grass with artificial grass. Homeowners who pursue conservation should be recognized, encouraged, not sued or fined. Because residential landscaping accounts for 1/3 of urban water usage statewide, allowing homeowners the freedom to use conservation-friendly landscaping will be one important ingredient reaching our mandatory water reduction goals. With me in support to testify is the sponsor legislation, San Diego County Water Authority's Glenn Farrell.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Morlock. Glenn Farrell, San Diego County Water Authority, in support of the bill. AB 349 is a very important piece to addressing California's drought puzzle. Recently, the State Water Resources Control Board set mandatory water use restrictions for communities throughout California, ranging up to 36% of mandated water use cutbacks. Californians, including those who live within common interest developments, need every tool reasonably available to them to help meet those mandatory water use restrictions and objectives. We found that replacement of an average size lawn with synthetic grass can reduce outdoor water consumption at that household by nearly 63,000 gallons a year. That can represent up to 27% of water savings at that household alone. Those are the sort of savings that are needed to help meet these mandatory water use restrictions going forward. While we recognize that synthetic grass is not the silver bullet to the drought, not the only solution to a prolonged ongoing drought, allowing homeowners to have this important tool would provide a valuable option for some folks. It's important to note, too, that the authors crafted AB 349 very carefully to strike an imbalance between achieving and advancing water use efficiency and also ensuring that homeowners associations retain discretion to impose reasonable restrictions with regard to establishing design and aesthetic standards, complying with environmental standards of municipalities, protecting health of the communities. Now is not the time to limit the options available to everyone to live within our water means, and that's why we strongly support AB 349 and encourage your aye vote.
Thank you very much, and under 2 minutes. Well done, sir. Okay. Good afternoon.
Wow. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Morlock, Kathy Cole with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. In response to the overwhelming public interest, less than 2 months ago, Metropolitans Board approved the largest turf removal and water conservation program in the nation. We estimate that the region's program will fund removal of over 150 million square feet of turf, more than 3 times the statewide goal set by Governor Brown to respond to drought conditions and promote more drought-tolerant landscaping. We also believe this campaign helped push the tipping point to shift cultural norm away from lawns and toward California-friendly landscapes that embrace the region's Mediterranean climate. AB 349 recognizes that more and more Californians, including residents of HOAs, believe it's time to stop watering turf that serves no function, and we urge your aye vote on AB 349. Thank you.
Thank you. Very briefly, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I've been called worse.
Yeah, I understand. Madam Chair and Senator Morlock, Dave Milton, California Association of Realtors, we are in support of this measure and particularly pleased with the latest version of this bill, which protects those homeowners that do make their landscape changes. And then once we have get over this drought, they can't, local government can't come back and say, oops, sorry, make it go back to where you were before. This protects them, and we very much support the bill.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other witnesses in support? Name and affiliation and support position.
Danielle Blassa with California Municipal Utilities Association in support.
Thank you.
Maria Garcia with Greenberg Traurig on behalf of the California Landscape Contractors Association in support.
Thank you. And now witnesses, and I'm having trouble seeing over you here. The witnesses in opposition, please come forward.
No, I know better.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Senator Jackson and Senator Morlock. Skip Daum, in behalf of the Community Associations Institute, which is an association of associations in service to several thousand HOAs in the state of California. I'm not going to get into the weeds on this bill, but...
Is that a pun, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Intended. But there are a few issues that are very troubling to self-governing communities, and I'll briefly go through them within the 2 minutes allotted. Because of numerous laboratory test findings that some artificial turf products contain lead and leachable contaminants, we would ask the author to consider an amendment that would allow HOAs to prohibit products that are not certified as being non-carcinogenic. And accordingly, perhaps this bill should be evaluated by the Senate Environmental Quality Committee. Secondly, and thankfully, Assemblywoman Gonzalez co-authored a bill last year, Senate Bill 992 by Senator Nielsen, which prevents HOAs from fining members who fail to water their lawns during a drought, but allows a significant exemption where non-potable water is used. This is very significant. And in order to preserve that sensible exemption, we need to now amend this bill in Section 4735 to say that an association that uses non-potable water for landscape irrigation may continue to prohibit or restrict artificial turf or any other synthetic or inorganic material as a substitute for natural or organic grass. Thirdly, Section 4735 allows unapproved artificial turf installations to remain in effect after the drought. This needs an amendment to allow removal of the alteration if it was not submitted to the HOA's Architectural Review Committee. And the reason we're concerned about that is the final suggestion is that we add a do not harm clause here, and one that would require members to submit their artificial turf plans to the HOA's Architectural Review Committee for approval. And this is to prevent something that's very much expected, and that is that members are going to willy-nilly go ahead and rip out their lawn and put in artificial grass. Why? Because they're going to read the bill as if it becomes a statute to say, we have permission to do so, we don't need HOA approval. So they just do it. In fact, they are already doing it. So we're saying that the recent amendment that says if they put it in, it can stay in regardless. We would ask that when the drought ends, and it will, that those unapproved installations be reevaluated by the HOA. Thank you for your consideration of these important points.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Vice Chair, Carrie Mazzoni for the educational community for homeowners, representing homeowners associations primarily in Northern California. I do want to thank the author for the amendments relative to the urgency language. We really appreciate that. However, we still remain opposed. We have a number of concerns, certainly health impact. We were supportive of SB 47 that was calling for a study on the health impact, the potential health impacts of artificial turf. We feel that this is a legitimate concern of a homeowners association which is governed in a democratic way by a democratically elected board. We also are extremely concerned about the environmental impacts or the potential environmental impacts. California has a zero waste goal. The landfill is the end of life deposit, is where artificial turf will be deposited at the end of its life. We already have concerns about landfills, and this bill does not comport with that particular environmental goal. We also feel that because of recent legislation that prohibits an association from prohibiting the use of low water use plants, that there are avenues available to associations to address the issue of reduced water use. Additionally, we have concerns about whether or not there is heating that occurs as a result of the application of artificial turf. We know that low water use landscapes cool the air around them. We also know that there's warming around artificial turf. So for these and a variety of reasons relative to health concerns and environmental concerns, we would ask for your no vote on this bill.
All right, thank you. Other witnesses in opposition? You know, this raises a really interesting point. This bill didn't go to any environmental committee. And while I'm very aware that we're supposed to focus on the legal issues here, and as I understand it, just to be clear on those, that this does not prohibit local municipalities from prohibiting the use of artificial grass. It's just homeowners associations. Am I right on that?
I believe there's a different bill that Assemblymember Gatto maybe introduced on cities, yes.
Okay, so we're focused now on homeowners association.
Right.
And that is sort of technically where we're supposed to be focusing on the legal aspects. I wonder though, knowing that your concerns for the environment and also mine, and that we did hear testimony in one of the environmental committees on which I serve, I can't remember which one, about some of the concerns about artificial turf. I know there was discussion and some witnesses who were actually soccer players and people who had been exposed to these artificial turfs. If you have small children, I wonder, could you comment on that? Is there anything we could do to address that issue?
And in fact, last year when we did a similar bill to allow drought-resistant landscaping, we talked about artificial turf, and one of my concerns was I kind of heard this environmental issue. Went back during the interim, talked to a number of environmental groups. In fact, if you notice, there's no environmental opposition. In fact, we have environmental support for this. And the reason is because some of those health concerns have to do with sports fields and the crumb rubber that's used in sports fields. It's not used by landscapers in residential artificial turf. Also, the lead issue. Prop 65 really has dealt with that in California already, so you can't import or even use lead-based grass in California. So a lot of these issues, although the arguments are sounding better and better every time. I mean, I'm starting to question my own bill every time I present it, because they're getting better at this. We did vet fully with the environmental community. I feel very confident that that's not a real issue. And the end of the day is, even with some of what they're asking, a homeowners association can still create rules. They just can't prohibit either expressly or constructively some sort of artificial turf replacement.
Okay. Questions? Senator Morlock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of thoughts. One is I served on the Santa Ana Water Project Authority, and so we've been talking for years that it's the front lawns that are consuming so much of the water, and that someday something would happen. And I live in a homeowners association. We have small yards, they're residences, and one of my neighbors pulled out the lawn and installed the turf, and the quality of the turf was incredible. You drive by, you don't even know that you're passing, an artificial lawn. The technology is so attractive now. If it wouldn't have been attractive, I'm sure the neighborhood would have just gone berserk. But what we're seeing now is an amazing product, and I think most of the issues, Madam Chair, have been addressed, because of what I'm getting is that there are unknown health impacts, and I'm trying to figure out what that means. But so far, I haven't seen anything that has troubled me, but I do appreciate the concerns that are raised, but so far so good in my area, in my district, so I'm supportive of the bill.
I'd like to ask the opposition to respond to the health issue. My understanding from the testimony here, or the presentation, is that that the Homeowners Association could create certain standards of artificial turf that could be used. In other words, say, no, we know that the sports fields, that grass is potentially carcinogenic or toxic. So you would have to, we would require that you use a product that isn't, and there are X, Y, and Z products that you could choose from. Is that your understanding?
Madam Chair, that is my understanding, and I recently toured a few hardware stores here and elsewhere in California, looking at the product packaging. They conveniently say environmentally friendly. To whom? To what? To humans, kids, pets that track it in. There have been several studies documented ever since then Attorney General Jerry Brown sued the industry for their contents being carcinogenic. And the industry will say, we've cleaned up our act. Indeed, at that hearing a few months ago on Senate Bill 47, every one of the industry representatives said we do need a study to verify whether or not our products are non-carcinogenic, or do they create a health hazard? Now, if they're saying that, and I'm looking at packages for sale to the consumer to think about putting it in his or her backyard or front yard, why isn't there one product out there that has been certified as non-carcinogenic? And to sell the product, that's not going to be brought up by the salespeople. And listen, we're not against the industry. We are for healthful alternatives in 50,000 communities in California. And as was testified, it's not the end all. It's not the panacea. And what has been suggested most recently as this morning in a Southern California newspaper is that the option to let it fade to gold is becoming more and more prevalent, and non-watered lawns are becoming commonplace. They know it will come back to green when the rain starts. So what we're offering as a positive alternative is to say the HOA needs, and I recognize they're allowed to create, adopt reasonable rules. But if the Happy Homeowners Association in Escondido says, here's a reasonable rule, you may not put it in the front yard, is that reasonable or unreasonable? So that's an open area for debate and perhaps dispute. What we'd like to see, however, is some definition, some standard of safety here. To say that two things. It has to be proven non-carcinogenic. And if it was put in without approval of the HOA itself, I'm sorry, but that's got to come out or at least be reapproved. That's why we thought it should be reviewed by the Senate Environmental Quality Committee. They have extensive research on this product. Well,
it's hard to argue that you don't want to put something carcinogenic on a lawn. Do we know of any products that have been identified as non-carcinogenic?
The problem is there's no certification program available, right? So the companies can't certify their product in a certain way. What we do have is Prop 65, which has been very helpful in ensuring that these products don't have lead, that the crumb rubber obviously was an issue under Prop 65 as well. So it has been addressed as much as the law allows. We'd have to create a certification program in order for people to, of course, put out there, like on any program. I don't know anything I buy that says this is absolutely not carcinogenic. I mean, that'd be great. We should do that for my water bottles. But I mean, I don't want to bring in other problems, but like, look, this is an ongoing issue. But I think that it is satisfied with Prop 65. I think it's clear. It says clearly the section shall not prohibit an association from applying landscaping rules established in the governing documents to the extent that the rules comply. In other words, the extent that it does not prohibit. It's not reasonable, say your front lawn, you have to have a front lawn. It's not reasonable. We're in a drought. We've got to rethink the way we live as Californians. And so that wouldn't be a reasonable restriction because you can't prohibit replacing a lawn with this synthetic grass. Now, what type? I mean, they could, just the same way they give you a palette of paint you can use sometime, from what I understand in homeowners associations. I've never lived in one. They could do the same with the artificial turf. So it allows them that flexibility, but also doesn't allow constructive or true prohibition.
I note that the chair of environmental quality is back and is here. I wonder if you have any thoughts on this discussion.
I don't think that there's a list of proven non-carcinogenic items. I know that we're waiting we've got the previous legislation that they talked about to have a study to look at the playing fields. We're more concerned with the soccer fields and these big facilities versus unless I would imagine maybe there are some common interest developments that are gigantic, ranchettes. But, so we haven't got that back, and that'll be due, I think, in 17.
But
17? Yeah, if the bill passes, right.
We also have the water, the non-potable water use, which should be looked at as well. That's saving water.
I think at this point, you know, we have a bill before us that really we're supposed to be looking at the legal aspects within the jurisdiction of this committee. As tempting as it is to get into the other arenas, I feel I'm trying to pull myself back here so that we really just address the issues that are before us. And I think that those issues are addressed. You know, orange is, I call it orange, or actually gold is the new green, and brown, actually, we can call it gold, but if you looked at my yard, it's all brown and really ugly. But it is what it is at this point in time, and while we all hope we're going to have a lot of rain this year, I do think we need to address this. And if there is any desire to reference the environmental issue, fine, but I think that's just not within our purview at this point to do so. So I'm kind of reluctant to try to, you know, work the bill in a direction that really isn't in the jurisdiction of this committee. So, Senator
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question on the Homeowners Association, because this is not my first Homeowners Association. And I found out after serving on my first Homeowners Association board that the president usually moves out within months after finishing their term. But Assemblywoman Gonzalez, I'm wondering, would you be respectful of the process of someone going through the architectural committee to get approval and have that done in a at least respect the process? Is that I think that's one of the amendments they're requesting. I think that's a fair
it's actually
one.
In the bill.
Okay.
So it already allows them. The problem is if right now, for example, they, you know, homeowners associations, and we already have, in fact, model language for them to adopt if they would like to, but they have to change their guidelines, right? Because right now their guidelines just strictly prohibit it. Well, if that's all you have and you haven't established a new set, then you're stuck. So I think that they have to proactively go establish them, but it clearly says in the bill that they're allowed to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
All right, we'll allow one comment, Ms. Mazzoni, and then we will I'll ask for motion.
Just for additional clarification on the Vice Chair's question, the bill calls upon the CC&Rs, does not require that the homeowner go to the architectural committee, and there's a difference there.
Are you willing to make an amendment?
Well, I don't want to require that they go do something that the homeowners association themselves aren't requiring. So we don't want to add a requirement if the homeowners association decides we're just going to let this go forward.
Well, there's nothing more fun in a homeowners association than to have a neighbor have to rip something out. It's not pleasant. So I just want to avoid that kind of activity.
And really, that's what's happening now, and this is what we're trying to address. I mean, we've gotten emails and phone calls from throughout the state, almost in every district except mine. Somehow, we don't seem to have homeowners associations there. The beauty of being able to carry this bill, right? But individuals who have been trying to find any way, and some of them have been frustrated and just said, forget it, I'm doing it, and are being fined daily for it. So it's just really pushing homeowners associations to realize we're in a different world. They need to allow some flexibility and provide for it in their governing documents.
All right, and we'll accept that as your close. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
As amended to the Senate floor. All right, we have a motion by Senator Morlock. I don't think Senator Wachowski wants the bill. So it's a motion, do pass as amended to the Senate floor. Please call the roll.
Jackson?
Aye.
Jackson, aye. Morlock? Morlock, aye. Anderson? Hertzberg? Aye. Hertzberg, aye. Leno? Monning? Wachowski? Wachowski, aye.
4-0, we'll leave that on call. Thank you, Assemblyman. All right. We have Assemblymember Daley to be followed by, do we have Assemblymember Alejo here? All right, we'll start with Assemblymember Daley. This is file item 7. I'm sorry, that's been pulled. 7 has been pulled. File item 22.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Public safety benefit and relief associations are authorized by law to provide insurance benefits for their members. However, they are not regulated by the state.
I'll move it.
This bill calls for a one-time filing of an actuarial report with the State Insurance Commissioner for review and analysis of the health of the funds. I respectfully request an aye vote. I do have supporters here, witnesses in support.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Madam Chair, members, Randy Perry there and Reed and Associates on behalf of PORAC. And this bill simply calls for a one-time review by the Insurance Commissioner. They have to report back to the legislature of all these benefit associations simply to make sure that the members, if injured, will be taken care of as they're paying. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Craig Brown for the California Correctional Peace Officers Association Benefit Trust Fund in support for the previous reasons.
Very good. Thank you.
Afrak Vargas with the California State Firefighters Association, proud to be a sponsor of this legislation. Your analysis did a great job mentioning the rundown in the history of this issue, and we're proud to support it.
Very good. Any other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? Bringing it back to the...
I'll move it.
All right, we have a motion by Senator Morlock. Any questions by the members? Very good. I think you've got a good bill here, and it'll be interesting to see what the result is, hopefully a positive one. Very good. Please, this is a motion due pass to Senate Appropriations. Please call the roll.
Jackson?
Aye.
Jackson, aye. Morlock?
Aye.
Morlock, aye. Anderson? Hertzberg?
Aye.
Hertzberg, aye. Leno? Monning? Wykowski? Aye. Wykowski, aye.
4-0. The bill is on call. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, and all the members. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We have Alejo is here. We do have staff report Donald to present. Hold on. Yeah.
Assemblymember Alejo was just here, and he's got 3 bills.
Right. Okay.
I'm sorry? Okay. All right, we do have... All right, let's let us go ahead and we have Assemblymember O'Donnell's staff presenting. Usually those folks end up waiting till the end, but since there's nobody else here and we still have a number of bills, we'll go ahead and...
Do they want to risk it at this committee, Madam Chair?
Well, you know
what that looks like.
Put those fangs back in your, pocket.
Probative questions.
Very good. This is file item 11, AB 552 by Assemblymember O'Donnell. He has a letter requesting that staff present on his behalf, and so it's all yours. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I would like to start by thanking the Chair and the committee for allowing me to testify on behalf of my boss, Assemblymember O'Donnell. And the Assemblymember accepts the amendments outlined in the committee analysis.
That's a good start. Thank you.
AB 552 seeks to provide greater certainty in damages arising from public works contract delays. When a contractor fails to complete a public works project on time, public agencies will seek damages from the contractor for the delay. Public works contracts usually contain provisions allowing agencies to collect set amounts of money from the contractor for each day they fail to meet their deadline. Setting delay damages to something specific provides certainty to all parties and allows surety bond issuers to appropriately assess risks when insuring a project. Recently, several public agencies have begun using clauses that call for delay damages in amounts that are unspecified. These undefined damages lead to situations where insurance providers cannot underwrite a project because of the uncertain level of risk. AB 552 restores certainty to public works contracts by requiring agencies to set any delay damages in their contracts to specified amounts. I have with me to testify Scott Governor from the Construction Employers Association.
Madam Chair, members of the committee,
afternoon.
Scott Governor here on behalf of the Construction Employers Association. I think Mr. O'Donnell's staff did a great job, as did your consultant explaining the issue. Liquidated damages are the standard for delay damages in construction contracts. They've been that way for almost 3 decades. Some agencies have begun inserting open-ended clauses saying the contractor shall be liable for delay damages as determined by the agency. We can't insure it. It's created a problem for the industry. We believe this narrow fix resolves that problem.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Chris Walker on behalf of the California Association of Sheet Metal Air Conditioning Contractors. Certainty is the key issue here. When small contractors bidding for these public works jobs don't have certainty, it can be financial ruin. So we support the bill and urge your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senators, Julianne Burrows here on behalf of Associated Builders and Contractors of California, also in support of the bill as amended. We do think adding the surety of limiting this to the delay damages is something needed. We cannot get the insurance bonds that we need in order to complete these projects. Ask your I vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council, also in support.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Maria Garcia with Greenberg Torrig on behalf of the California Landscape Contractors Association, also in support.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Now, the landscape contractors, is that artificial turf toxic? Oh, that was the last bill. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Jason Murphy on behalf of the University of California. We did not have a position on this bill, but we did want to acknowledge the amendments that were adopted today, take care of concerns that we had raised. I want to thank both the author and the sponsor for working with us. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Please come forward. Now, you know the bill has been amended, so if you'd respond to the status of the bill with those amendments.
Madam Chair, Nancy Chidas Espinosa with the California School Boards Association, representing nearly 1,000 school boards of education.
Why don't you bring it closer?
I see the light, yeah. So representing nearly 1,000 school boards and county offices of education in California. We want to thank the author, the staff, and the sponsors for working so constructively with us. With the amendments that were just taken, we will be able to remove our opposition and go neutral on this bill.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy McDonald with the California Special Districts Association. Also wanted to thank the author and his staff for working diligently with us on this bill. The amendments go a very long way in addressing all of our significant concerns. We have one little small clarifying issue that has been identified that we will work with the office going forward, but all of our major concerns have been addressed.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition? All right. Thank you, folks. Bringing it back to the committee, are there any questions? Motion by Senator Morlock. With those amendments, I think that you have kind of resolved the outstanding issues and concerns that I had as well. Anyone else have any comments? No? All right, we have a motion. The motion is to pass as amended to Senate Appropriations. Please call the roll.
Jackson? Aye. Jackson, aye. Morlock? Morlock, aye. Anderson? Hertzberg? Aye. Hertzberg, aye. Leno? Monning? Wachowski? Wachowski, aye.
4-0. Thank you very much. You did a fine job on behalf of your boss. Thank you for presenting the bill. It will be on call.
Thank you, Chair.
All right.